When a simple dinner with a client turns into date night and then becomes a fight for your life, there is only one course of action. Run, sweetheart, run! Which is an Amazon original from writer-director Shanna Fest, who did Country Strong, Endless Love, and Boundaries. This was also written by two other people. Yes, three people. Three people were needed to write this movie. Let that sink in, especially if you need a new sink and you've been waiting around for it for a while because your other sink keeps leaking, keeps dripping, and then you're wondering why this dripping is going on. Oh my God, the water bill is going to be so astronomically high. That doesn't have anything to do with Run, Sweetheart, Run, but an endless water bill might actually be more interesting to read than anything involving Run, Sweetheart, Run. Am I tipping my hand as to how I felt about this movie? Well, let's talk about the other writers. Keith Joseph Atkins, who's done a few television shows, and Kelly Terrell, who did Good Night, My Love, which was a short that came out in 2012. You know what? Good. Good that people are getting involved and getting projects, and hopefully they can go out into the world and go into Hollywood and do stuff better than Run, Sweetheart, Run. This stars Ella Balinska, who plays Sherry. That's Cherie. She was one of the three that was in the 2019 Charlie's Angels remake. I actually didn't mind. I actually thought that movie was perfectly fine. It wasn't great, but it was entertaining. My expectations were also in the goddamn Earth's core, so as long as it wasn't a complete abomination, I was going to like it. But really, it was fine. It was entertaining. I also couldn't tell you much about it beyond that if you offered me $5 million. Also, if you offered me about $10 million, I couldn't tell you why they thought Run, Sweetheart, Run was a good idea. But it does star the guy that was also the villain in Samaritan, that I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm going to call him Pillow Abstract. That's basically about the closest I can pronounce. And there are other people in this as well. Other people, some of which you may recognize, some of which you may not, and a bunch of characters that don't really mean anything because we have to just run, sweetheart, run! It's like Run, Lola, Run if it was directed by a fucking idiot and funded by, I don't know, the mafia that wanted to use this as a tax write-off, or funded by aliens that had no goddamn concept of a movie and just threw a whole bunch of ideas into a blender, spun it around to a beautiful oblivion, then we threw in some shit and we serve it to you. This movie is ass. This movie was really, really ass. Here's the plot, such as it is. There is a single mother, because all the single ladies, God, I hated that Alvin and the Chipmunks movie for ruining that song, more than it already was. She ends up double booking her boss, where he has an anniversary dinner, but also is supposed to have dinner with the client. So, hey, can you take this dinner? Sure, I can take this dinner. And the dinner turns into something nice because this guy Ethan, played by Pillow Abstract, I'm very sorry if that's offensive, but I really don't know the guy's name. It's like Pillows, Pillow Abstract, Pillow Abstract. Okay, enough of that. He ends up being really, really nice, and even though there's a few hints that this guy is completely batshit insane, she's swept off her feet. Also because she's a single mother, she doesn't get out much. She's like, sure, I'll stay home with him. Let's do that. He also makes a bold offer to have her stay there. But also, well, I need to get home by 6:30. That's fine. I'll set my alarm. Oh, your alarm's already set for 5:25. That's oddly specific. Almost like that's when the sunrise is coming up. But that's okay. We don't need to think about that. Let's just do this. And then suddenly, this date night turns into a fight for her life, and she runs and runs and runs and keeps running, and we basically get a social commentary on how men don't believe women that are abused, and women believe women. And this is about as heavy-handed and thump you in the head repeatedly. Ow. Remember the Black Christmas 2019 version? Remember that? Remember how that was hacked out within just a few, well, seemingly a few months? And it was so goddamn badly done, badly edited, badly formatted, badly acted, and bad in every goddamn way. But there was backlash if guys said that it wasn't very good, even if they just said that it wasn't good as a movie. And that was the whole thing. You can do social commentary about that because there should be awareness brought up about how many women are scared to report crimes of abuse, assault, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Nobody should be made to feel that way. Nobody should be made to feel like they are powerless or like they don't matter. They do, and nobody should take advantage of anybody like that. There's a good idea in there to dive into a movie, or to use in a movie and dive into it. Black Christmas 2019 didn't do it right. This movie really doesn't do it right. I mean, this is a little bit better than Black Christmas 2019, but not by much, because that movie was a complete abomination that wasted Carrie Ellis, or Elwes, as it were. I actually never know how to pronounce the guy's name. The guy from Princess Bride, As You Wish. Oh, my sweet Wesley. So, yeah, she just keeps running and running and running and running and running and running and running. Okay, so Amazon helped fund this. And who else helped fund this? Blumhouse, of course. Of course. Anytime there is a terrible concept, which a few bucks can be sunk into, and they can make a few million, Blumhouse is almost guaranteed to be involved. So, fun facts about this movie. It was shot in 2019, was planned for a theatrical release, but unfortunately, after debuting at a festival in January 2020, that was put on ice because, as we know, the pandemic hit in March of 2020, really hit, and theaters were shut down all over the world. And movies are just swallowed up by streaming services and stuff like that. And you have to think, well, why wasn't this movie released in 2020? Or at least 2021? Why is it released now when it was shot in 2019? They called for reshoots. I don't know what footage they left on the cutting room floor to allow for the reshoots, and I don't necessarily care, because none of the footage from 2019, or this year, should have seen the light of day. Ironic for a movie that mostly takes place at night. This movie was a complete abomination and a complete travesty, and this was honestly one of those films where I'm thinking, okay, other movies barely get any funding. This got at least something. I mean, this probably only had a few $1 million sunk into it. I can't imagine it was that much. And Ella Balinska, she has a star quality to her. She wasn't bad again in that Charlie's Angels remake. And there's potential for her to actually have some good roles. Unfortunately, this wasn't it. This ain't it, Chief. So, from basically every bit of this movie, it goes from this tonal shift, like this social comedy, to, oh, we're going to do funny comedy, except it doesn't work at all. None of the comedy hits. And characters will just be accepting of things suddenly. Like, oh, okay, let's wash all this stuff away, this past stuff that we had, because we need to believe you. But then we're also going to have arguments and everything. It's like the rewrites kept happening. Like, we would get certain scenes, and then we would have the reshoots that would jump into this, which kind of explains why some characters looked a little bit aged, even though it was only just a couple years. It's amazing watching some of this stuff. Like, maybe they just darkened everything so you wouldn't be able to tell what was the original footage, what was the new footage. Not that you would care, since it's all goddamn awful. And, again, there's a good idea here. But she's pursued by this guy that's just this bloodthirsty man that wants to control her, and I need to teach you your place and tell you how you need to be, and you're a woman and you don't know what you want, but I'm a man and I control her, man, and I will make sure that you stay where you're supposed to stay and stay in your place because I'm a man. This movie has no right to exist. I didn't think that I was going to hate it that much, and then I ended up really, really hating it. And in fact, I ended up pretty much just despising this movie. And having, this idea could work, but the way they handled it, it's like it was just an amalgamation of ideas. There were some attempts at doing action scenes that weren't very good. And suddenly they have this tonal shift in the third act where it's like, oh, now we suddenly have to do this, and it's part of this interwoven plot, and it's all this and everything, and it's this battle between men and women and all this, and just, yeah, it's an allegory, and it's a bad allegory. It's badly told. It's terrible. It's spectacularly bad. If you have an Amazon Prime membership, by the way, you will be able to watch this for free. Granted, Amazon probably should pay people a few bucks to watch this. It's not like they don't have money or enough money, to fund about 18, small countries forever and still have enough money left over to maybe give their workers a little bit of time off. But this movie, oh, God damn it. The acting was terrible. The writing was terrible. The pillow abstract guy, he maybe there's a good actor in there. I believe he was in Overlord, if I recall correctly. And I haven't seen him in much of anything good. I really need to watch him. If you can suggest something that this pillow abstract guy, as I have named him, is in that's good, please leave it in the comments so I can figure it out. This movie couldn't figure itself out, and this movie's terrible. It's on Amazon. I'm going to get into spoilers here, so that's just your fair warning right there, even though I've gone on longer about this movie than it deserves. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay. So, basically, there's a bit of stuff in the beginning of Cherie getting kind of tossed around a little bit, being part of this law firm, being a secretary and everything for her boss, James Fuller, not related to Robert or Buddy Fuller. If you get it, you are a long-time old-school wrestling fan. And she gets verbally and physically assaulted on a bus. Of course, nobody does anything because women being assaulted apparently don't matter in this movie. I know, it's the whole idea. And then we get some fourth wall breaking after her and Ethan meet. Ethan's not a fan of dogs, so he's more of a cat person. Why isn't he a fan of dogs? Oh, he's not a fan of dogs. Certain dogs, like female dogs. No, really, that is what the whole thing is. He doesn't like women. He likes to overpower women, but he can't overpower female dogs. What? Who came up with this? You need to be checked for CTE. Or if you were born without a brain, which is entirely possible given some of the writing in this movie. I'm sorry if any of the writers happen to be watching this, but if this is the stuff they went with, if this is what they made you write, maybe they, I don't know, held a gun against your head and held your family hostage until you wrote something out and you just wrote it in a panic. I would understand that. But I don't think anybody could reasonably write this dialogue down and think, this is a great idea. Let's put this on film. He yells, control your effing dog. He actually says fucking dog. But everything's going good. And even though she's on her period, and he seems really, really interested because he's a creature that likes blood. Really, that's where we're going with this. They never quite established what he actually is. He could be a vampire. He could be a werewolf. He could be a demon. He could be a whole bunch of other things. Maybe he could be a dog soldier, except I would actually laugh because dog soldiers actually like to do something good with this concept. Nothing great, but it was fun. And then there's fourth wall breaking where there's this music playing and it's all romantic. She's going to stay to 6:30. His alarm set for 5:25. And then they go in and he goes, shh. Does this and the music stops. And then she runs out screaming. And then we have the run graphic. 4 times that the run graphic pops up. Maybe more. I stopped paying attention after a while. No one will help her. But what happened? What in the world's going on? She doesn't have her phone with her. It's in the house. Nobody ever thought to actually maybe run out with their purse. Nevertheless, some people are, see her that she's panicked. They call the cops. The cops arrest her. And then this lady of the evening, I don't want to use a bad term, hooker. Well, we know some wrestlers and some athletes that are hookers, but a hooker was there in the jail and says, hey, wait a second. He said something about a gin and tonic, about this. He doesn't like dogs. You know who you are. I know who that is. You are marked. You must find the first woman. She's your only shot. What do you mean, the first woman? Who's this first woman? Eve, clearly. Clearly. Or at least one of the first women created, or whatever, if you believe that fairy tale book. And then that woman she gets let out and disappears, and then Ethan's there, and Ethan is going to play a game with her. Hey, it's like, I control all these men, and I'm going to pursue you, and if you survive this daylight, I'll let you go. And then she keeps being pursued. And she was let out of jail, by the way. Bail was posted because he posted the bail to let her go. Let my people go. And then she's let out in the weirdest, most dire part of the neighborhood. It was almost like looking at parts of Detroit from what I've been told. Whole bunch of homeless people, which I feel terrible for anybody that's homeless. Everybody should be able to be housed and be safe. That's how it comes down. Unless you are a criminal or or a pedo or whatever, or you're some kind of vicious human being, then you can rot for all I care. Good people, however, deserve to be housed. So then she goes to the boss's house in a taxi. A taxi driver helps her nicely and doesn't charge her a fare. Good, because she doesn't have money, nor is it an affair to remember. Ha ha ha. And the boss, by the way, clearly has set this up. The wife knows. After taking a shower at the house and getting cleaned up and getting the blood away, even though she's on her period, so blood, 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 no tampon, no. She looks at this calendar on the computer and it says 2020. You couldn't even bother to not show the computer date. That's how dated this movie is. Nothing wrong with having dated movies, but for this to have come out, in 2022, and for them not to have changed that simple thing, this was just hacked out. They said, we spent a few million, so release it on Amazon. We'll get some clicks. Maybe we'll get our clicks on Route 66, which is where this movie belongs. Leave it out in the desert. Leave it to rot. Leave it to die. Leave the screenplay to die. I don't know how you could do that necessarily, because a screenplay in a movie, they're not sentient things. And the boss said all this meeting up, all these other secretaries that have disappeared suddenly or been fired or left their job. Everybody. It's all set up. Why? Because he controls men, and women don't deserve rights. That's, again, pretty much it. And then the wife says your blood is basically a powerful scent and that he will continue to pursue you. The run graphic for the second time. She calls her ex for help. Her ex that has her that wants to basically see his daughter, but doesn't really see the daughter that often because she has a daughter. She leaves it with her leaves her daughter with the best friend, but the best friend has to go to work, so has another friend show up that we don't see, but we hear about that off camera. And then the ex picks her up. They're grilling each other about this stuff, like, oh, she dumped him. He started dating her best friend. And all this stuff, and then he's upset and gets out of his car because they might have hit something. But don't worry, nothing happened to him, not yet. That's a little bit of a crazy. Oh no, nothing happened to him. We're being creative. No, you're not. If you were being creative, you would have actually made this movie interesting by this point. So they go to the house, and because she's like, I was attacked, all this stuff and everything, and he says, I shouldn't have said what I said. It wasn't your fault. We got you. And the best friend is upset with her until she sees what happens and then says, okay, you know what? All that's washed away. All this stuff gets washed away. All this drama, save the drama for your mama, as Booker T said in WCW in 2000-2001. They waited way too long to push new people in WCW. If you're a non-wrestling fan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. They're watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre about a girl that is, not the Netflix version. Oh, it's another terrible movie of the year. This might actually be worse than I don't know. We'll see. I still got a number of weeks to work on my best and worst films of the year lists. So anyway, suddenly there's a guy in the house that can read tarot cards, so he does, and he talks about all this death card, all this stuff and everything. But no, this isn't about the guy. This is about you, the strength and the power and everything. It's about drive. It's about power. Everybody that's not a rock fan hates me. And then suddenly, Ethan shows up. This guy Ethan just shows up, and they said they have a whole bunch of weapons and everything. One has a sword, one has a bat. You ready to teach this proud boy a lesson? Okay. I mean, proud boys should be taught a lesson in consequences for your actions. And if you are a proud boy, fuck you. You did not deserve to be born. And your parents should be charged with bringing you into this world. So, off my soapbox, the lesson was not taught because they were all killed. Most of this violence happens off camera, believe it or not. Trey gets his head torn off, so that was kind of shown. And then run graphic for the third time. So, go to church, there's a cardinal, and then one cardinal ends up getting dispatched because Ethan's there. And how can Ethan be there? I don't know, because he's a creature. And even though he's an unholy creature, he can just do whatever. It's because he's the devil, pretty much. That's pretty much what it is. At least that was implied. They tried to be obtuse about this, and all they ended up being was acute. Like having an acute issue, like an acute understanding of how films are made, and how films are done, and how they should not be allowed to make another film again until they apologize in front of a grand jury for what they did with Run, Sweetheart, Run. So, the cardinal then somehow stabs him with one of the people that was left, stabs this guy with a cross through the neck and through the chest, and then hands her a lighter and says, go, just go do stuff. And she does, and then she finds her way through the church basement, finds her way to a rave where she dresses up like, it was Michael Jackson and Rambo mixed together. Look at the outfit and everything. Not quite the Sgt. Pepper thing that Bret Hart and Sting would later take. Again, non-wrestling fans have no idea what I'm talking about. Then suddenly she puts a bandana on, she cleans up the blood, she puts bleach on, which is really great to put on an open cut. Really, really great stuff. God, somebody that went to freaking, maybe not law school, but somebody that went to college you would think would know that. Somebody that understands basic chemicals, but she's trying to take away the blood, because the blood is a powerful thing. And meanwhile, a little bit earlier, actually, when she was on the subway, or on the bus trying to ride away, she saw this deal where if you see this person, contact the first lady. And that was the first woman that was referenced earlier. I'm telling you that because then she's being harassed by more guys. More guys harassing women. That's what this movie needed. We haven't seen that more than, 10 to 15 million times since this movie started. And then these girls from this party, just right, hey, there you are. Let's take you away. Come on over here. We know you. And then they get in the car and they're all partying and they're all having fun and everything and all this stuff and whatever. Then the car wrecks because there's blood. And Ethan destroys the car, seemingly. See, this movie didn't have the budget to allow to really show 80% of the violence or 80% of the action or whatever. And again, it was so badly shot with 2019 shots and reshoots, they couldn't cobble this shit together. And apparently the editor was forced to work 80-hour days, or maybe, an 8-minute day, and piece this thing together, which actually might make sense. Maybe this movie was pieced together in about one day by somebody that clearly has no idea how to edit things. Or, again, Amazon and Blumhouse could have been holding their families hostage. A lot of families being held hostage here. And then Ethan catches her. Then suddenly a female dog shows up and scares him and he runs away. Or he disappears. And the female dog's all happy. Good doggo. Good doggo. Look like a pit bull. You know what? Pit bulls are good dogs. Pitties are good dogs. And they can be very protective, but they're really great dogs. Anyway, to the house of the first lady, or Dinah. Are you going to Dinah in or Dinah out? Okay, I'm sorry, this is really late in the review to be making jokes. Hey, I have this spa thing, and I have this idea. Nobody has survived as long as you. If you don't help us, your daughter's going to be killed, so you need to be the bait. Also, we have charcoal to eliminate smells. It's better than Febreze, and we have bacteria, or we have red lights to kill the bacteria. And also, we're taking your blood and putting it in water and putting it all over the sewers and throughout the city so he won't find you. But we're going to use you as bait. So the idea is to make it so they can't find, or he can't find her, yet they want him to find her. Then they go to the carnival set, or the carousel set from Strangers on a Train for some goddamn reason. They fight a little bit, and then he gets, he captures her, and she's up like this and everything, and he's like, you need to know your place, and la. You need to do this, you need to know your place. I'm a man, I know what's best for you, yes. Why is Emperor Palpatine? I don't know. He ends up being fooled by the fact she's like, I want to be with you. I want you, please, just take me, all this stuff and everything. Well, she's trying to get this piece of charcoal, but then she tries to hit him. And that doesn't work. So she throws it through a window. They somehow just happen to have all these blacked out windows right there. Oh, you thought a little sunlight would stop me, because sunlight can stop him. Not just me. And a bunch of these women from this spa, they throw these rocks through the windshield. Somehow they hear her. Did they have her wired? Did they have a psychic link? Was the screenplay just saying, fuck it, we're lazy, do this? And they did this. All this stuff gets broken down. Oh, not. He's like melting away, melting. Oh, what a world. I'm Pillow Abstract. And then he ends up melting away, and then he gets set on fire by the first lady, because they've known each other since the beginning of time. And then she gets back to her house and sees her daughter. And that's it. That's it. I hate this movie. I hate it so much. It wasn't even entertaining. Like, I can accept movies not taking themselves that seriously if they're entertaining. This wasn't. It was an amount of ideas and no cohesion, no great tone, no great tonal shifts. Terrible acting, even though the actors themselves aren't terrible. Everything about this was terrible. If this is not on my worst films of the year list, then it is going to be a really, really, really rough year. Even though there's been some great shit. F gets an F. Could give it an F minus minus if I really wanted to. But this isn't Futurama. Fuck. Agree, disagree what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Jar Wentland. I'll see you soon.